Hey everybody, this is Tina.
And this is Erika.
And we are A92A. A92A stands for ages 9 to adult, and that's how long we've been on this journey together as friends.
92 is also our high school graduation year.
And ages 9 to adult is a nod to the board game life, which we rockified as kids in order to live out our rock and roll fantasies. Thank you for joining us. It's a big day.
Oh my God, it's such a big day. I'm so excited.
We're really excited because we have our first guest with us today, and you guys know him as the original proprietor of the world famous Cathouse, iconic host of Headbanger's Ball, a super fan of metal, 80s and otherwise, podcaster, entrepreneur, commentator, interviewer, prominent voice in the sport of racing, overall just badass TV, radio personality, and awesome human being. We have Riki Rachtman here today.
Yay!
And is that because I'm 92 years old is what you brought me on this show? That was
Yes, you've done so much that it seems like you should be 92, but you are not. You're a young dude still.
I feel like lately I've been feeling like I'm 92.
No.
You don't look 92.
No, you don't look a day over fast cars and freedom, Riki. You're doing it. Now, to say that you are a busy person is probably an understatement, but I didn't even mention probably the biggest thing on your mind right now, which is you are getting married in just a few short weeks. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. It's even if I didn't have enough stuff going on, here's the one thing because that a lot of people don't know. We are getting married in 30 days. Tomorrow, my fiance, Leah, is going to France. Oh. And then next week, I'm going to France. So we've got 1 month before the wedding, and 2 weeks of that, we're not even going to be here. We're going to be in France.
Wow.
Her mom's birthday, and she's from France, and a lot of her family can't be at the wedding. So we're going to France. So in all actuality, we kind of have about 2 weeks to really plan, and we picked the venue yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I know you had some venue challenges at the last minute. I saw that. Yikes.
But
that's stressful.
It is stress. It is stressful, and all the work stuff that we're doing. That both of us are very, very busy. But you know what? It's going to be fine.
Yes.
It's just little tests all the time.
It totally will. And by the way, I could listen to her talk all day.
Yes.
Her accent is what I dream of. It's cool. So cool.
Do you know what's funny is, my fiance Leah is from France, and she sounds like she's from France because she is. Mm-hmm. And when she speaks, when we're just talking, I really don't notice that she has an accent at all.
Really?
Except I don't even think about it. But sometimes when I listen to the podcast or when I hear we're around other people, I was like, oh yeah, you have an accent. and I think it's kind of cool. I'm glad.
It's amazing.
Accent.
Yeah.
But it's pretty fun. It's awesome.
We're talking, of course, about your podcast, Hot Biscuit and Croissant, and there is nothing more beautiful than the way she says croissant. Like it is.
I know.
It's amazing.
That's what I was gonna say. I'm like, I aspire to say croissant like that. It's amazing. I say it like the Midwesterner, croissant.
I say croissant too. I say croissant. I say a lot of stuff wrong. There's a couple words that she says. I'll give you an example. I don't remember what we were talking about, but she says, well, they're going to just need to fuck us. And if I use bad language here.
Yes, it's fine. Yeah, we use it all the time.
She was second. She goes, well, they need to fuck us. And I was sitting here and I was just like, what?
Hold up now.
Like, they need to fuck us. And I'm like, say it slowly. She says, they need to fuck us. I'm like, I don't know what the hell are you talking about? She goes, you get a camera and you got to fuck us. And I'm like, focus?
Oh, that's amazing.
And sometimes she'll say things I won't even correct her because I just like it.
I know.
Agreed.
Just let it go. It's amazing.
But she, in all actuality, she probably has a better command of the English language than I do. So
I think most people that have to learn it as a second language do.
Yeah.
Because they have to sort it out from the scratch,
It's pretty amazing. I also just change approved. I'm going to start saying fuck us and moving forward. Yeah. I think that's the better pronunciation.
I think so. I think so.
You also have a ton of stuff going on with Cathouse, which of course was, started as a club and really grew into a huge brand. Talk about all the stuff you got going on with it now. Like what's happening?
It's really funny, Cathouse was not opened. You know, it was featured in the metal years. It's been in so many movies, and not so many movies, but it's been in some movies. It's been in book, every rock book of any rock star from that era, you know, talks about the Cathouse. And the truth of the matter is, it was the first kind of business thing that I ever did. Tammy was much less of a businessman than I am,
Right.
still is. And it was honestly open, just like it says in the metal years, it was open purely to get free drinks and meet girls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the beauty is the people that we were hanging out with at that time that were truly our friends. It wasn't like, oh, we're friends with all the rock stars. No, these guys are our good friends, and they just happen to become rock stars. And when Axel is helping me promote the Cathouse, I didn't know that Axel was going to become the biggest rock star in the world. So when Axel is playing at the Whiskey and he's saying, hey, everybody, we're going to have a party Tuesday at the Cathouse. And then he also wears a Cathouse shirt / wore a Cathouse shirt when they played a month ago.
Right.
Yeah.
All of a sudden it's still promoting it, and people love the whole, the Cathouse was not, I mean, yes, all the biggest bands in the world played there, but it wasn't about the bands. It was about the feeling and the vibe and the recklessness and you know, the sleaze and debauchery and the sexiness and the danger and the anything goes. And you know, back then I had that very strict rule about no cameras in the club because I didn't want anybody to feel like something would come back to haunt them. This was obviously before cell phones, but I didn't want anybody to feel like anything would come back and bite them in the ass if they're drunk or they're acting a little bit risque or whatever. Of course, you know, decades later, I wish I had photos of a lot of
Yeah, I bet you do. We all do.
But it also wouldn't have had that notorious reputation that it gained, and it never ever went away. And I was always selling Cathouse shirts, and then I decided, you know, I'm going to really turn this into a company. I've been offered to sell it in stores, I've been offered to sell it on Amazon, but instead I got 2 offices. I've been handling it myself. 2021 was the best year that I've had selling these shirts, and we're expanding the line, and it's exciting and it's fun. I sit there and I come up with an idea, and then I just try to see if I can make it happen, and it's just getting better and better. And you know, now I'm hoping to make some denim vests in the future, and it's you know, yes, it was a club and it's a t-shirt logo on a nightclub, but I want it to be a brand that represents a little bit more. I'm very picky on the quality. And the crazy thing is, there's only like, this is what's really a trip to me. There's only one nightclub ever that sold more t-shirts than Cathouse, and that was CBGB's.
CBGB,
And CBGB's were available in every store, in Nordstrom's and Hot Topic, everywhere.
Yeah.
And Cathouse, the only place in the world you can buy it is from cathousehollywood.com. That's the only.
That's incredible.
So to know that brand is that big, and I don't know what the hell I'm doing, is really flattering, and it's very exciting to see what's going to happen in 2022.
Yeah, and you're kind of expanding this brand too, right? And I'm curious to know, like, how are you modernizing the brand? And I have a theory, and my theory is that all of this music is going to come back in a very big way, because if you listen to what's on popular playlists now, it's a lot of like studio stuff. It's like no instrumentality in some cases. It's all very auto-tuned and all studio produced. And I think people are going to be craving actual music with instruments and people on stage and live performance. That is what we're talking about here on this show. And so how do you feel like Cathouse as a brand is sort of modernized now? And what are you planning to do with it to sort of bring it into this current time frame?
I would like to think that it's something that sometimes, I know this sounds kind of weird, that a lot of younger people were wearing, but not to the point of, hey, I need the younger influencers to start wearing my stuff. I think that a lot of what a lot of people, and I'm not one of those purists that listens only to older bands. There's a lot of new bands that I love. I love heavy music, and I love a lot of new stuff. But the truth is, and I selfishly call it the Cathouse era, in that area, we were more rebellious, we were dangerous, we were having more sex, doing more drugs. And that's not saying that was great. I'm just saying that's just the way it was. And I think people love that rebellious side about it. And they think like, oh my God, you'd probably go outside a Cathouse and there'd be 30 choppers in front and everybody'd be dressed to nothing. And I was like, yeah, that was what it was. I never ever made this club and said, Cathouse is going to be where the hottest chicks are. Mm-hmm. It was like that, but there's a reason. And I'm sort of answering your question, why I think that people harken back to this is because, you know, Cathouse was written about in Women's Wear Daily, California Apparel News, Sportswear International, all these major fashion companies, because what it was it was a woman could go there. And I'd like to use you two as an example. You are not bimbos. You are very, very intelligent women, but you also know that it's okay to be sexy. And there's a difference between being sexy and intelligent and just being a stupid whore. That
True.
You could, and yes, we had a lot of stupid whores there, God love it. But we also had a lot of women that might have been businessmen or school teachers or principals or ran companies that said, I can go to the Cathouse, I can wear lingerie instead of a shirt, I can ask all decadent. At the end of the night, I can go home, take a shower, put on my nice clothes, wake up with my family, have my normal job. And here it's like as if a guy says, you know what, I want to put on a cowboy hat and I want to go play in a Wild West town. It's the same thing. You could go back and you could look and act decadent and not really be decadent. You know, it was fun. It was playtime. There were no rules. It was not serious. We didn't have phones. We didn't talk politics. It was about the cliche of sex, drugs, rock and roll. That's exactly what it was. Well, now a lot of us are sober, myself included. I've been sober 33 years. Congrats. A lot of us don't do drugs anymore because it's killing people. The sex, it's not like it was, and it's not, we don't go out. You know, people don't go out. They do a lot of stuff from home. They're not going out, and, you know, we went out a couple times a week, no matter what. And people love that edgy, dirty, crazy, Wild West feel to everything. And they harken back to that day. So I think that people like the vibe that the Cathouse has. And I don't feel that modernizing it is important or even a goal, and I also don't want to think of it is nostalgic, but I'd like to think, and this sounds just like a brand marketing guy, I'd like to think of it as an attitude of, you know, I didn't go to the Cathouse, but I know what it was back then. And it was this crazy, raunchy, fun place. And, you know, I see people that collect Cathouse stuff that have much better stuff than I do, because I never sold the brand, which I probably would have had a lot more money if I did. I never put the brand anywhere that I didn't think it belonged.
Right. You know? Well, and from that perspective too, I think what you just said is important, because it's not so much about the misogyny that people think of when they think about the late 80s, early 90s and that genre specifically. It's more about women being able to own their sexuality, and not to get like too deep in the weeds with it. But it's like you said, like we can go to the Cathouse and we can have a good time and we don't have to feel bad about it. It's something that we can do because we have the power and the say so to do it. So from that perspective, I think in some ways it's a very modern concept where women are concerned.
And the women at the Cathouse were powerful, because the guys pursued these women, and the women they would walk into the club, and I'm sure a lot of women went there because the rock stars went there, but a lot of the guys went there because the beautiful women were there, and not so beautiful women there, but everybody was treated great.
We've actually talked about that a lot on this podcast, in that the women have really drove that genre. And there was like this perception or stereotype that the women were mistreated or that they were sort of like looked down on. But actually, I think the opposite was true. So I'm glad you said that, because you were actually there and can tell what it was like.
It's a little bit of both. You know, you hear that story of that, you know, douchey rocker that lived with this girl because she paid rent and she bought food. But there were also the same guys. It's like, I'm trying to make it as a band, and this woman is out there working, and she's the one that's paying the bills and doing this. And, you know, I better treat her right or she's going to make me kick the curb. I mean, there was a lot of bad behavior, and I think condescending attitudes on both sides. You know, it wasn't like, it wasn't bimbos. There were women that weren't, and it was just everything. But, you know, I was talking to somebody. I wanted to do a Cathouse tour, very very recently.
Yeah.
And what my concept was having some bands. I tell a few stories. We have go-go girls, and we have videos of like these 70s burlesque women all over the walls and all this stuff. And the guy said, are you worried about cancel culture? Because this is objectifying women. And what I said was, I said, there's nothing wrong with women being looked upon as sexy. Okay. Mm-hmm. There's nothing wrong with having, and first of all, if anybody ever went to my club Bordello, we had girls, and the reason that we had dancing girls at Bordello is these were the same girls that were dancing on that show Living Color. The girls that we had, and even the girls that we had on some of the recent Cathouse things, I had this girl Malice has this huge mohawk. She's covered in tattoos. She's this badass chick. And I'm like, she represents the Cathouse because she is a woman that is sexy and beautiful and will take no shit. Like, you grab her leg, she's going to kick your teeth in. And that represents, to me, the brand is independence. And we're so worried about everything right now that we're taking a little bit of the fun away. I happen to be marrying a woman that I honestly look at as an equal, that's very, very independent, that's very strong, that's not beneath me. And I think, guys, that is what they want. I think so too. Some guys don't, but that's a whole nother issue. And I don't know. I know I'm kind of skirting the question, but
no, I think it's totally relevant.
If there was a Cathouse and I did a Cathouse tour, or I opened up another small bar or nightclub somewhere, I would make sure that sexy was still a big part of it. And when I say sexy, I don't mean sexy as like, hey guys, it's wet t-shirt night. Yeah. I don't mean it like that. I mean, the guys are all girls like the dirty rock stars, and guys like the girls that look like strippers, whether they are or they're not. And it doesn't mean, none of the women that work for me as employees, the women that I trusted with my money, were that type of women. They were all very, very intelligent. I don't know.
But I think what you are talking about is a modern concept where Cathouse is concerned, because I think a lot of this probably was going on, like you said, in the 80s and 90s when you had Cathouse, but people don't know that. People see it as a stereotypical thing. And now, you're bringing it out and you're bringing it forward again, but it's about women owning their power and owning their sexuality and being comfortable with it. And I think that's a newer concept for women. And so I think that it is very modern.
Yeah,
I agree. We didn't set any ideas or any concept or goals or preconceptions of what it was going to be. Everything that happened at the Cathouse happened organically. I didn't really create anything. All I did was create four walls, help to, whether it's me putting, a 1970 Russ Meyer film or hockey fights or weird stuff all over video walls, instead of rock videos. It was just to give everything kind of a vibe and let whatever happens inside happen,
Right. Yeah, I think it's amazing. And I love the idea of bringing it back. I think people are looking for something like that, a little bit more of an escape. And like I said, as far as the music's concerned, I think people are looking for real music. And I think it's going to eventually make its way back in a big way. In fact, like the number one Spotify playlist right now, I think is like a 90s country playlist. And that's with like Gen Zers, like kids that are my son's age, who's 18. So I think a lot of this is making a resurgence. So I'm super excited about the idea of a tour, or the brand, especially being something that people are talking about again.
Yeah.
Well, Target isn't selling Guns N' Roses and Metallica shirts for the older people.
Right. No. I was in Forever 21, and I sent Tina a picture. There were 15 shirts that look like this of Def Leppard. I don't know what's going on with Def Leppard and Forever 21.
Do you know what else there was? At Forever 21, Dead Kennedy shirts.
Yeah. I've seen some of those. It's bizarre.
And I was like, it was the big DK. And I was like, okay, first of all, I can't believe they're selling a punk rock band that is called the Dead Kennedy. They are selling this at Forever 21. And there was another shirt that they were selling that I was just like, that I was blown away that they were selling. And it's it's packaged rebellion, and that's
yes.
what it's
Yeah,
trying
but
to
I
do.
love the fact that Cathouse has never gone that direction, because I feel like if you're wearing a Cathouse shirt, it means something different. Like, it's very authentic, it's very genuine. You had to go out and find it. You weren't just at Forever 21 and happened to pick it up. So I
Right.
love that about the
Chances
Cathouse
are,
brand.
whether you like it or not, if I say chances are, if you buy a Cathouse shirt, that my fingerprints are on it, literally, literally.
That's it. I'm buying a
Like
Cathouse shirt.
I'm going there and picking up the boxes. I have one other staff member now, and we're trying in North Carolina, which is where some people still think I live in LA. I moved to North Carolina, and where the office is, I call it Cathouse South. And December 5th, I'm going to try something called an open house, where people can come and buy Cathouse or Headbangers Ball shirts or any of that stuff from me at our office.
Wow.
I know. I
have-
saw this. Tina and I were talking about this
Yeah.
before you came on. I'm so pissed that I don't live in North Carolina. Like, I'm about ready to make a trip to North Carolina just to do this. Like, I'm so pumped about it.
That might have been the first time that sentence was ever uttered. I'm so pissed I don't live in North Carolina.
Well, Riki, actually, I'm curious, what drew you there? Why did you leave LA, and what were the circumstances around that?
I've always lived in Los Angeles, always. And if people said, like, what job has Riki Rachtman had the longest? What people don't know is that it's NASCAR.
Yeah.
I've been hosting a radio show where I play rock and roll and talk about NASCAR. And I've been doing that for just about 20 years. And obviously NASCAR used to be so huge in North Carolina. So every time I came here, I'd go like, wow, look at these trees and this lake. And this is really beautiful. I was like, this house is how much? Like,
Right.
Like in LA, if you're going to buy a house for, of course, things are different now, but 4 years ago, you could not buy a house in LA for $400,000.
No,
you couldn't.
No.
And now you go into a neighborhood where it's $400,000, and there's people with nice cars in big houses. So when my rent in LA, which was $4,000 a month, and they said we're going to raise it to $7,000, I was like, I can't afford that. That's ridiculous. And I'm like, wait a minute, for less than half of what my original rent was, I can own a house with a boat slip.
Yeah.
Right. It's like the Midwest. Totally.
But it's not. I mean, it's not like, for people to think like, you drive on my neighborhood and it's like the deliverance. It's not. It's really not. I live in a very nice neighborhood with great neighbors. All my neighbors wave. I really, really like living here. And the beauty is the amount of money that I save living here, I can still go to LA whenever I want. And the homeless situation is so sad in LA. And it's so expensive for a not very good quality of life. And I do go back to LA quite a bit because all my friends and family are still there. And what I miss the most about Los Angeles isn't there anymore.
Yeah, I'm struggling with that right now too, actually. And I happened to buy a house about 10 years ago, and I think if anybody bought a house within that time frame, at this point you could just sell it and move almost anywhere else and then never have a mortgage payment again. Kind of a thing. It's outrageous. And I'm almost 50 and have a roommate. This is how things work in LA. And you're right.
That's what you have to do.
Yeah, it's crazy. And the homeless problem is really big, and there's a lot of sad things. But I don't know. I still have like a real strong love and attachment to Los Angeles. A lot of it has to do with us growing up in a small town in Nebraska and listening to this kind of music and feeling the energy and the vibe and wanting to be out here so bad. I'm still holding on really tight here, but I could see myself in a few years making an exit as well.
When I was 15, I was on a moped delivering on Sunset Strip. So I know the Sunset Strip my whole life. And, it was beautiful. You would go to Cathouse Tuesday, you'd go to Scream on Monday, Cathouse Tuesday, Bordello Thursday. Then, when everything was done, you'd always go to the Rainbow if there was anything going on, and we'd all eat at this Denny's, and we'd all go to Canner's, and we'd have all this stuff that you knew that you could go to, that we would all go shopping at Rock and Roll Ralph's. I mean, we have a real community that simply is not there anymore.
Yeah.
And it's like you would say like, oh, it's Saturday, let's go to the whiskey. Who's playing? I don't know.
Yeah.
But we'll go. Like you'd go to, people would go to the Rainbow. I would never really go there early. I'd always wait till like 1:30 if there was nothing going on. And my Leah just walked in.
Aww.
Hi, Leah.
Hi, Leah.
Hi, Leah.
And So it was, oh, bye.
Bye, Leah.
She's leaving. It was just to say it was a community. I mean, we all got flyers printed at the same place. We all ate at the same place. We all went to the same bank. We did everything together, and you would see the same people several times a week, and it really was a community.
Yeah.
And that community is gone. Tammy is the last one of us that's still there, that lives in the same place that he's lived forever.
Really?
He's control, and has no desire to move. But the last time that he was at my house here, he's like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. You're describing the lifestyle that Tina and I always wished we could live. Like I just said before you got on, it's like, why weren't we just a little older? Because we were like 14, 15 when all of this was going down in LA. So it wasn't going to work for us to, quit school and move to LA at 15. But it's totally why Tina ended up there. I know that for sure.
Yeah.
The sad thing is that we didn't realize that we were, and I will say this, that we were in the best era in music, in the epicenter of it all. I mean, if you were into heavy music like thrash, you'd probably want to be in the Bay Area. Yep. And New York City had its scene, and of course Seattle had its scene. But where we were, it's like, it's weird to think like that 80s Hollywood rock scene was so big. And I opened a club that was the epicenter of that whole, like, I don't think I did anything. I never did. I just do whatever I do. And when people say like, you were part of that big, I go, I am. Really?
I loved your stories about Cathouse on the podcast too, because I work in the concert business myself. Like I, work with promoters and agents and manage venues and book venues. And I loved your stories on Cathouse about promoters and like how shows were promoted back then. Like, I bet you have the most fascinating stories just from an industry perspective about promoters and how it worked. Cause I think there were a lot of sketchy things that happened too on the promoter side back in the day. And so I'm
not on my side, not on my side. If you were going to play, I mean, this is what did it take to play the Cathouse? I had to like you, and not personally. I had to like your music. Or one of my friends had to like your music, and there were bands that. And if you even on the podcast, one of the stories is, what venues did then is they would charge bands to play. If you owned a venue, you had to, which sounds stupid, but it's a risky business being a promoter. If you you don't know. So if you're a promoter and you want to get this one band that costs $1,000, and then the opening band says, I'll give you $500 for us to be the opening band. Well, then, half of that is already covered, whether anybody shows up or not.
Exactly.
So I understand how it works, but I never did that, except the only time that it happened was when, and it's a story in the podcast, when Pete Angelis managed David Lee Roth, and Pete Angelis said, hey, can you let this band play the Cathouse? I'm like, I don't know. Let me listen to them. And I listened to them, and I thought they sounded like Faces, and they were kind of cool. He's like, they're going to come out with an album. He's like, would you just have them play it? I'll give you $400 and just give me like a guest list of this. I go, okay, I'll put them on early, because I thought that they were pretty good. And it was the Black Crowes.
Yeah. And if you haven't listened to that episode of the Cathouse Hollywood podcast, you should, because that's an amazing story. I think it's like episode 1 or 2. Didn't you tell that story?
Episode 1. I took down every episode, but I think I left that one up there. So if you go to check out, and eventually just go to the Cathouse Hollywood podcast, subscribe to it, because you'll get the episodes as they come back. I'm going to remix the original ones, just getting rid of some of the stuff. Like we did a couple episodes when this whole COVID thing broke, and I was talking to different bands about COVID and different. I don't want to hear that shit anymore. So,
I'm so over it.
All of those out. I'm taking any advertisers out, and I'm going to be reposting all of them. And some of them, I started listening to, like the John 5 one, and I just listened to it, and I was like, well, this is really, really fun. Like I started listening to the episodes that I recorded myself, and I was like, it's a really fun show, because
it is a fun show. It's amazing. I can't wait to hear the new episodes. It's going to be great. Get them out there for us, Riki. We're dying. Well, I think the whole idea is amazing. I'm so glad that you're relaunching it. Obviously, people know you from Headbangers Ball, and I've watched so many clips of you on Headbangers Ball, just doing research for this podcast, because you really were the most iconic host that show ever had. And I think you had a lot of street cred, which is why people really love to hear what you had to say. I mean, like you said, you knew these guys. These were not just people that you were interviewing. These were actually friends of yours, or they were people that you had close relationships with. So I think that's what made you on Headbangers Ball so interesting. It's where I got all of my news in the 80s.
Yes, true.
Really.
It was so irritating, and still is to this day, when there's other hosts that you'll hear and they'll say, oh, and my good friend blank. Oh, my good friend blank. And I'm like, really? Are these guys really your good friend? Every band is your good friend. But I was just as guilty of that. But the problem was, before I was in MTV, these were my only friends. I still, to this day, 2 weeks ago, we were talking to Dee Snider about officiating my wedding.
That's amazing.
The guys from Exodus. I still, of course, talk to Ace, who's in LA Guns, and Tammy, a Faster Pussycat, and Slash and Duff and I occasionally text each other. And we don't talk about music. And these are people that I stay in touch with, because not because of the shows, just because I put Doyle from the Misfits on. Doyle's a friend. He's just a sweet, funny guy, and sometimes when you have friends on your podcast, they're not very good because you're just talking to your friends. Like, I remember when I did a podcast with Gilby Clarke, who of course ended up playing in Guns N' Roses for a while. And I realized that Gilby, who I look at as one of my very best friends, I realized I never really talked to him about what happened when he found out he was definitely in Guns N' Roses. Because if I'm with Tammy, I don't really talk about putting together a Faster Pussycat record, or if I talk to Slash, the last thing I'm going to talk about is Guns N' Roses.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm asking my friends these questions that I actually never even knew, that are just like the normal questions you think that everybody would know. I don't know a lot of band trivia about people that are some of my better friends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, I think that's what gave you all your street cred. And that's why you were the host for so many years, because you really were the best fit for that job. Absolutely. So we did a whole podcast about where we got our information back in the 80s, and Headbangers Ball was like a huge part of that, because of course, back then, like, there was no proactivity when it came to gathering information. It's like, you just wait for somebody to tell you something, because you can't go find it really on your own. So we would just wait for Headbangers Ball every Saturday night. We'd get like our full news recap of what's going on in the world of music, and we were good.
It was, like the Cathouse, it was a part of my life that I didn't realize how lucky I was. Here's the truth. And I know that I had a lot of haters. And here's one of there's a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons was, and I know this, it's weird to think I had the greatest job in the world. Not one of the greatest jobs. I had the greatest number one job in the world. I go all over the world to talk to bands, and I didn't appreciate it, and I didn't see what it was. And in our lives, we never step back and say, holy crap, look what we're living in right now. Look at what we're, and then when it's gone, and there was a time when I lost everything. And then it was like, man, if only I could get a job again. If only I could. And then you get it back, and you got to stop. And I'm still guilty of this, and appreciate, like, hey, right now that was a great time, but that's gone. Right now, there's things that are going on right now that are pretty rad. I got to see Alice Cooper, Guns N' Roses, Rolling Stones, and Bad Religion all at different venues, all in the space of 6 days. And I was like, wow, that was really cool. That was really neat. And after not seeing concerts for a year and a half,
right,
and all of a sudden you appreciate, and there's little things you appreciate. One of the things that what seems like a bad thing, but was actually a little bit of a good thing, is with, oh Jesus, sorry about that. Look, it's Ace Von Johnson is calling you right now.
Wow. Could you be any cooler, Riki Rachtman?
I know.
That's not that cool. The truth is, when Guns N' Roses played in Raleigh, North Carolina, about a month ago, it was badass, because Slash wore a Cathouse shirt. And
that's amazing.
See the big screen, I'm like, where's my name? Like, it was really, really cool. Like, hey everybody, that's my name. But because of COVID, artists don't get to go backstage. I mean, guests
Right.
go backstage. There is no meet and greet. I have not seen those guys in years, and I could not. And Slash said, dude, I'm sorry, there is no backstage. We go from the bus to the stage, back on the bus. And I told him, I completely understand. So what it did was, it made me go to the show, sit down from the first song and to the very last, because there's no place else I've got to go. So I have gone to some concerts lately, and anybody that ever went to shows with me knows, like, you know, when there's 10 songs, I'm already heading backstage or doing all this. So I went for all those bands that I had just mentioned, I saw the entire show from the first song to the last.
And there's something so refreshing about that, because it really
Yeah.
takes you back to why you loved this music in the beginning. Like, it takes me back when I watch a show and I'm not working it or I'm not booking it or whatever. It takes me back to when I was like 14, 15 years old and just loved to go to concerts. And like, you can just sit there as a fan and remember how amazing it is to watch these guys.
That's why I was there. I was there as a fan. I'm sitting there watching Guns N' Roses and Alice Cooper and Bad Religion, and the Rolling Stone show was a whole different experience, because I was that, you know, I'm a little bit jaded, you know. I grew up loving Alice Cooper, and then Alice Cooper's playing my club on Halloween, puts Cathouse in his show, says that Netflix needs to make a show about the Cathouse. So I'm jaded in that way. However, the one band that I'm a dork about is the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
Because Mick Jagger and Keith Richards are the biggest rock stars in the world. Well, I was at the show and I was very, very close to them. And I'm like, Lee, I'm that dork that was in front of me at all those shows, dancing and singing and just being an idiot, and be like, oh my God. I'm like, what an idiot is that guy?
That's me at every Motley Crue show, by the way.
Yeah.
I was that guy at the, I'm like, Leah, that's like the real, that's not a guy that looks like Mick Jagger. That's Mick Jagger, you know? So when there's shows that I'm just a fan, I'm thinking, like, you know, that's what people are like when they're at Motley Crue. I wasn't like that at Motley Crue, because I knew that.
No, right.
So it wasn't like that. And I wouldn't, you know, I wasn't watching a lot of the show. Except the Girls tour. I went to a lot of those shows, because it was so entertaining. That was
a great tour.
Such a fun. I mean, I remember where Pyro came out, and it was just, those were just really, really fun.
Those guys, though, never put on a bad live performance. Those guys are pros when it comes to the live show. So they're amazing.
Did you say those guys never, or those guys never did put on a bad show?
They never do put on a bad show. I mean, we've got tickets to go to their stadium tour whenever it actually happens. I think it's going to happen in 2022, but
yeah,
I don't know. You probably have stories about.
Do you really think it's going to happen?
I do.
Don't burst our bubble. Don't burst our bubble. We've been looking forward to this.
Nikki's come out to say that there's no way this is canceling again. So we're keeping our fingers crossed. We're keeping our fingers crossed.
Because Nikki said there's no way it's going to cancel. And
Yes.
Nikki would never say anything wrong, like we will never tour again. And we're even going to sign contracts that we will never tour again.
They were teasing. They were teasing. But yes.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. I said this when the tour was announced. I said, this tour will never happen.
Oh, really?
And please, I hope people aren't going to take this as me bashing Motley Crue, because when Motley Crue was good, there wasn't anybody better. I want to be wrong so bad. I want Vince to be in shape, to sing the songs and to kick ass. And I want everybody to say, holy fuck, that's right. They are
Me too.
a damn good band. I think what's going to happen is eventually they're not going to do the tour. And the reason they're not going to do the tour is they're going to say, because Mick can't tour with the band and we're not going to do it without him.
I wondered about that, actually.
That's
I know
what
this health has been an issue.
They're going to say. I hope I'm wrong. I'm not slamming Motley Crue.
Yep.
There was nobody that was a bigger Motley Crue fan than I, going to all those shows a while ago. I mean, I did go a couple times after, but I don't think that show is ever going to happen.
I'm
Ever.
so sad now. I'm sad.
No.
What the hell do I know? I don't know.
You know everything. You're literally my source of information in the 80s to 90s.
I know nothing. I know absolutely nothing. And I am more than happy. Put it this way. If I'm right, I'm going to be bummed. Like, I want to be wrong.
Yeah.
I want to be wrong, but I won't
Yep.
be wrong.
Yeah.
And I've been right about this whole thing the whole time. I thought that when the contract was made, I thought it was the most ridiculous thing in the world. Blowing up a contract and saying we're going to blow up the contract, I thought was like really, really silly. It's like, okay, listen, if I make a contract that says there's never going to be a Cathouse ever again, and I'm going to sign that contract, and then I decide, there will be a Cathouse. And I just say, I made the contract with myself.
Right.
You know, it's like there's
Right.
no thing as making a contract you're not going to play. And that proved obvious.
Yeah.
And I also don't think the show would do as well as people think.
Yeah. Well, like you said, hopefully it happens. Hopefully it's a huge success. I'm excited to see, Def Leppard and Poison as well. But we'll see. We'll see if it happens in 2022. And
you know which band will probably be the tightest out of any of the four bands?
Joan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because she is. She was actually, that was one of the last shows that I saw before the pandemic started. I saw Joan.
And was she great?
She was fucking phenomenal.
Another band like that's Cheap Trick. Great.
Always good. Cheap Trick, always good.
Yeah. Although I think Def Leppard's pretty tight too. Every show I've ever seen with Def Leppard's been super professional.
Yeah, but fuck their guitarist.
What?
What? Is there a story here?
Yeah, there's a story.
Oh.
He gives guys like me unrealistic goals.
Oh. Phil, are you talking about Phil Collin and his shirtless wonder?
Yes.
Yeah.
I hate him.
I know. It's too good.
Like, he doesn't have old, like, and let me tell you something. If I had a body like Phil Collin, I would be doing this interview without a shirt. I would never.
I say that all the time. If I had super tight abs, I would never wear a full shirt again. Like, I would literally just wear crop tops for the rest of the
That guy is in such good shape. But then same thing, I just had Doyle from the Misfits on. Doyle's older than me, and that guy is like like jacked. And I'm like, fuck you guys. I hate all you guys. Like I'm okay with like older guys looking a little bit older. Not like I as much as I love Iggy Pop, I kind of wish Iggy Pop would put on a shirt. But
please put on a shirt. Iggy, we're begging.
It's like Phil, it's like, damn, that guy looks so fucking great. I saw Alice Cooper look. He wears a shirt, but Alice Cooper looks great.
Yeah.
I just saw him. He was on a panel. I just attended a conference in Nashville, and he was on a panel with Smokey Robinson of all people. And listening to Alice Cooper and Smokey Robinson talk about their stories I could have sat there all day long. It was only an hour long, but it was fucking amazing. It was incredible.
In that hour that you were watching, did you sit there and go, what is up with Smokey Robinson's face?
Well, I've thought that for a long time. And I got to tell you too, like, Smokey wandered a little bit. Alice is like on it. Like, he is so smart. Yeah. His stories are so to the point, so intelligent. He's incredible. He's an amazing human.
I love Alice Cooper, love Smokey Robinson. I just like the reason, I'm obviously getting older and older and older, and I've never had any work done. And the reason being is I look at somebody like Smokey Robinson, who's got so much money, and other rock stars, some of which we've mentioned, and their faces look just kind of weird. Like they always look really surprised. And
very plastic.
I'm like, but that's not to say I won't do it. I'm just saying at this stage of my life, if I do stuff like if I go get a mohawk, maybe it'll like make people go look up that way instead of like inevitable, because I know
drawing the eyes up.
Yeah.
Up here.
Cheekbones.
The higher my mohawk goes, the higher,
I love
All
it.
right, Riki, like, I feel like we've kept you so long. Like, I'm so sorry, but I could literally talk to you for hours and hours and hours. But I guess, Tina, I guess at some point we have to wrap it up, right?
We do. Riki, why don't you tell everybody how they can find you online, your podcast, your websites, things like that? Do you want to share some of that?
No.
Okay.
Okay, of course. I'm on all social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, under Riki Rachtman, which is RIKI. Hot Biscuit and Croissant is the weekly podcast that I'm doing right now. Cathouse Hollywood podcast will be back. You can get Cathouse shirts, Headbangers Ball shirts, Ricky Leo Vendetta shirts, all those things at cathousehollywood.com. I don't know who I'm going to be. I've got my radio show, Racing Rocks, which is heard all over America. I don't know what else I'm doing in 2022 as far as motorsports goes. And I still don't know what I'm going to do about a lot of stuff. I hope to do another charity motorcycle ride this year. I didn't do that last year. Every year I've gone on a motorcycle and raised a lot of money and rode a lot of miles. And we called it Ricky's Ride. And then Leah went on the last two. So I doubt I'll call it Ricky's Ride this time. And I think right now I'm after the wedding and everything like that, and the podcasts and all that stuff, I'd like to focus on doing another ride, because when I do those rides, I just say, okay, I'm going to ride from New York to Los Angeles on a motorcycle. Follow me on social media. We're going to stop here in Cleveland and have grilled cheese. Anybody want to meet us? And people show up.
Oh, it's so great.
And we have.
Do you think you can stop in Sioux City, Iowa next time, or Omaha? Because that's where I'm at.
Did I stop? I'm sure I stopped in Sioux City before, but I keep on getting mixed up with Sioux Falls.
Yeah, Sioux Falls and Sioux City. Everyone can.
But you could drive there too. You could drive there too, Erica. And Erica loves a grilled cheese, Ricky. So you have to keep her posted.
Cleveland's got the best grilled cheese. I'm sure I'll go by North Hollywood. Because let me see, where would I go stop? I try to find like the cool places in all the like different areas, like places that people go to, not like who has the best biscuit, who has the best ice cream.
You're not going to Cheesecake Factory then? That's not on your list.
Not going to Cheesecake. Just don't have that much time to A, wait line, and B, read the freaking novel.
Read the menu.
Like, I'm getting older. It's like, hold on, here's the Cheesecake Factory.
Where's my glasses?
Right.
Oh, amazing. All right.
So amazing. Well, I have to tell you, I, for one, really want a little bit of Cathouse back in my life. I would love it if you did some club promoting nights in Los Angeles and some venues. Let's do it.
I'll tell you what I want to do. I'll tell you what I want to do.
Okay.
And this might be my ego out of control again. I'd really love to do spoken word. I would love to go around and tell stories. I would love to do that. Like go to a venue that maybe fits like 100 people or something. You know what'd be also cool? Rent a movie theater, do spoken word, show the metal years, and then come back for Q&A.
I have venues, Ricky. Do you want to do this in Omaha? I have venues.
It's funny. I made a list of the places to go, and I started with Omaha.
I knew you did. Everyone does.
Like, if you can make it in Omaha,
you can make it anywhere.
Anywhere.
It's so true. True.
The good thing is, I think that's a really good idea, and I haven't tried to do it, and nobody's going to rip it off because it's me. Because everybody's like, "Oh, we're going to do the metal years, and we're going to get."
No one can do that but you.
Yeah. So that if you book it, I'll come. I think that'd be really, really fun.
Sweet. It's on my list.
We're on board. We let us know how we can help out, and this has been amazing. This is kind of the part where we reach out to our listeners and ask them a question. We want all you guys to tell us about your favorite experience or memory involving Riki Rachtman. Maybe it was a great Headbangers Ball episode. He's shaking his head. He does not want this to happen. It's going to happen. Maybe a Headbangers Ball episode he hosted, a night you spent at the Cathouse. Maybe you met him at a racing event and he was super cool to you. Keep it clean. Keep it appropriate. We'll share stories.
No.
We want to know.
Do not keep it clean. Non-clean stories only.
I will tell you what people will tell you. You want me to hear what the answer is going to be?
Yeah.
Yes.
They will be mentioning the Alice in Chains at the Water Park Headbangers Ball.
Okay. Oh, yes. An amazing episode of that. Yes. Mm-hmm. Although Erika was just talking about the Nirvana episode or interview.
I just watched that the other day, the Nirvana episode. I thought they were so awkward, but you did a great job.
No, I
just thought they were incredibly awkward.
Here, I'll give you my imitation of Riki Rachtman interviewing Nirvana on Headbangers Ball. That's my imitation.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of how I felt watching them. But anyway, that's a different podcast episode.
Imagine what it's like for it to have happened almost 30 years ago and be reminded of it like once a week, every single week. But I am also lucky that, hey, I got to do it.
You did it.
Yep. You did it, and it's out there. I love it. All right, everybody, you guys can follow us and interact with us at our website, www.a92a.life. Follow us on Instagram at A92A_life, or check out our Facebook page, A92A. We thank Riki Rachtman so much for joining us today. This was so much fun. And for now, keep ratting those bangs and banging those heads. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.
Bye.